Imagine waking up one day to find that your home has become nothing more than a room as hot as a furnace, surrounded by garbage, black water, and narrow alleys with no toilets. What makes this even more frightening is that such a future may not be far away. Experts warn that within the next 50 years, as many as 1 in every 3 people on Earth could be forced to live in enormous slums. In Manila, that future seems to have already arrived. Before we enter a place that most tourists have never seen, subscribe, like this video, and leave a comment below. Do you believe this could become the future of many cities around the world? Number 10. Manila. 2 worlds within one city. Before we enter the narrow alleys, we first need to understand where Manila is located on the map. The city lies on Luzon, the largest and most important island in the Philippines. It is also the country's political center, home to the offices of the President, Congress, the Supreme Court, and the Central Bank. Many major national decisions begin here. But when people speak about Manila, they are not always referring to a single city. There are 2 different meanings that must be clearly separated. The first meaning is the city of Manila itself, a compact administrative center covering about 42 square kilometers. More than 40,000 people live within each square kilometer, making it one of the most densely populated places in the world. In a small American town, tens of thousands of people may be spread across a wide area with yards, open land, and public parks. Here, a similar number of people can be crowded into a space no larger than a single neighborhood. As a result, almost any unused area can become a temporary place to live. A narrow strip of land beside a canal, the edge of a railway line, or the space beneath a bridge. Over time, these locations can grow into informal settlements. The second meaning is Metro Manila, one continuous urban region made up of Manila, Makati, Quezon City, Pasig, Taguig, and many other cities built closely beside one another. This is the Manila seen in news reports and travel vlogs: glass towers, old Spanish fortifications, and brightly colored jeepneys moving through crowded streets. When the sun sets over Manila Bay, those familiar scenes are actually spread across several different cities. But because these places connect almost without any clear boundary, people usually group them together and simply call the entire area Manila. Inside this vast urban region, 2 worlds exist side by side. One world of glass buildings and air conditioning, and another world of rusted metal roofs standing above polluted water. In this video, we will see both sides, but we will spend more time in the side that almost no tourist ever enters. Number 9. Manila. From glass towers to Canal-Side slums. If you land in Manila and travel directly to the financial district, it is easy to forget that the Philippines is still a developing country. In Makati or Bonifacio Global City, everything looks like a smaller version of Singapore. Glass towers rise into the sky, bank logos and international brands glow across building fronts, while polished marble lobbies almost reflect every light around them. The streets are clean, the sidewalks are solid, and the trees are carefully trimmed. When night falls, warm golden light spreads across the roads, while security cameras and guards appear on many street corners. You can almost forget what it feels like to be unsafe. Inside those towers is a cool, air-conditioned world of customer service centers, technology companies, banks, and international offices. At street level, enormous shopping malls serve as shared living rooms for the city, filled with fashion stores, coffee shops, fried chicken, milk tea, and movie theaters. If you filmed only in these districts, you could create a video titled Manila, the Rising City, and almost no one would question it. But that image has never told the whole story. Drive for less than 15 minutes in another direction, or simply turn away from the main road, and the camera enters a very different Manila. The glass towers disappear, replaced by rows of low homes with metal roofs and walls assembled from wood, plastic, and pieces of scrap metal. Wide paved roads slowly become narrow, muddy alleys filled with potholes, piles of garbage along both sides, and tangled electrical wires hanging just above people's heads. In many areas, especially beside canals and near the edge of Manila Bay, homes no longer stand on stable ground. They extend over the water, supported by wooden or concrete posts driven into the mud and waste below. Beneath the floors, the water is covered with plastic bags, foam containers, food wrappers, bottles, and rotting vegetables, creating an odor so intense that even standing nearby can make breathing difficult. And if this video has kept you watching, subscribe so you do not miss the journeys ahead. We will continue taking you into places that ordinary travel videos rarely dare to enter. Number 8. Jeepney, from war scrap to a symbol of the Philippines. In the middle of Manila's chaotic traffic, there is one sound that is hard to mistake: the harsh growl of an engine, horns pressing against one another, and then suddenly, the deep pulse of bass from an old speaker. A jeepney moves past, its stainless steel body catching the sunlight, its bright paint covered with drawings and large words. It does not only carry passengers, it carries the street spirit of the Philippines. For many visitors, a jeepney looks like a nightclub on wheels, but behind that loud appearance is a story that began in war. After World War II, the American military left the Philippines and abandoned thousands of old Willys Jeeps. To Americans, they were nothing more than military scrap. But to the people of Manila, who were trying to rebuild their lives from ruins, they were a rare opportunity. They took those vehicles apart, extended the bodies to carry more passengers, replaced the military tops with strong metal roofs, and turned them into public transport that could move through the city's streets. To erase some of the grayness of war, they covered those old metal frames with the brightest paint they could find. Images of Catholic saints, superheroes, bold patterns, and decorative lights that flash after dark. Stepping into a jeepney feels like stepping onto a very crowded stage of everyday life. Two narrow rows of seats face each other, forcing strangers to sit shoulder to shoulder in the heat, surrounded by the smell of fuel and the vibration of the engine beneath the floor. And yet inside that cramped space, everything still works through a very simple kind of trust. A passenger in the back passes money forward through the hands of others until it reaches the driver. There are no electronic tickets and no card machines. There is only habit, trust, and a rhythm of life that has lasted through many generations. That is why the jeepney is not only a way to travel, it is a machine reborn from the remains of war, carrying painful memory, street energy, and a very distinct pride that belongs to Manila. Number 7. Happyland, where a family lives in a few square meters on only a few dollars a day. The name Happyland sounds like an amusement park, but in reality, it is a painful joke. The name comes from Happyland, a local word meaning garbage dump. Among the communities along the edges of Manila, Happyland is a place where thousands of people must fit their entire lives into only a few square meters and survive on just a few dollars each day. Inside a typical home, the total living space is only about 8 to 12 square meters for a family of 4 to 6 people. During the day, the mattress is raised and used like a seat. A small table serves as the dining table, the children's study area, and the place where the gas stove is kept. At night, everything is pushed aside so the family can lay the mattress on the floor. When one person turns over, everyone else touches one another. There is no private bathroom. Dozens of families must share only a few temporary toilets at the end of the alley. Clean water is not readily available either. Many families must buy it in 20-liter containers for cooking, drinking, washing dishes, and bathing. Bathing here means pouring only a few scoops of water over the body. Even washing vegetables requires careful planning, because using too much water today may leave the family without enough tomorrow. A mother does not only count every peso, she also counts every scoop of water. At midday, the metal roof becomes as hot as a frying pan, pushing heat down into the low rooms where almost no air can circulate. Children lie on mattresses with their backs soaked in sweat, while older residents sit outside their doors searching for even the slightest movement of hot air. Arnel is a 40-year-old father who lives near Manila Bay with his 4 children. Every morning, while the financial district is still sleeping in air-conditioned comfort, he walks barefoot to the water's edge and steps into the thick layer of plastic waste floating across the bay. To Arnel, it is not simply garbage. It is how he feeds his family. He collects plastic bottles, rusted cans, and pieces of metal from the polluted water without gloves, boots, or any protective equipment. His hands are covered with scars from broken glass and metal wires cutting into his skin. After working for 10 to 12 hours, he earns only about $3. When asked why he does not look for another job, he says, "If I stop, my children will go hungry." Number 6. Pagpag, food recovered from trash by Manila's poorest families. If Arnel's room of only 10 square meters shows how tightly his family must sleep, Pagpag reveals what they may have to eat in order to survive. Put simply, Pagpag is discarded leftover food: fried chicken, chicken skin, bones with small pieces of meat still attached, and sometimes rice or spaghetti left unfinished by customers at fast food restaurants. For most people, it is garbage. But for some families in Happyland, it may be the only meat they eat that day. Pagpag collectors search through restaurant trash bins with their bare hands. They separate any pieces that still appear edible, then remove dirty tissues, drinking straws, cup lids, and anything that cannot be eaten. Sometimes the weird waste contains insects, sharp pieces of plastic, or other objects that cut their hands. Yet they continue searching because every piece of chicken skin or bone with meat attached can become part of a meal. What they collect is placed in buckets or bags and carried back to small metal-roofed rooms inside the slum. In a temporary cooking area, everything is emptied into a plastic basin filled with water. The meat, skin, and bones are moved through the water to remove some of the old grease, dirt, and pieces of paper still attached. The person preparing the food knows it can never become truly clean. The goal is only to make it less dirty. After being washed, everything is chopped into smaller pieces, placed in a pot or frying pan, and cooked with oil and a large amount of seasoning. High heat is maintained for a long time in the hope that the heat, garlic, fish sauce, and spices will reduce the bacteria while covering the smell of old food. When Pagpag is ready, it can look from a distance like a cheap stir-fried meat dish. Some portions are sold at very low prices to people who are even poorer, have no time to collect discarded food, or are unable to search for it themselves. The remaining food is kept for the family. Children living here know where the meal came from. They have watched their mothers or grandmothers wash pieces of chicken in a small basin. But when the pot of Pagpag begins to boil and the smell of oil, garlic, and fish sauce fills the room, they still gather around the low table, staring at the pot and waiting for their portion, just as other children wait for a meal of fried chicken. This is not a shocking food challenge created for entertainment. It is the final option for a family that can no longer afford fresh meat. Number 5. When disease and poverty steal children's futures. If you think meat recovered from garbage bags is already the lowest point, Happyland holds an even harsher truth. Illness is not a question of whether it will come, but when. Children here do not grow up with milk, vitamins, and clean water. They grow up beside polluted water, charcoal smoke, and the smell of open drains. That is why it is not unusual to see a 5-year-old who is as thin as a 3-year-old with skin infections that have remained untreated for a long time. In this place, a cough may be pneumonia. A period of diarrhea may lead to dangerous dehydration. But the most frightening problem is the cost of treatment. Private hospitals are almost completely beyond reach. Public hospitals may appear free on paper, yet poor families still have to wait in line all day and then pay for medicine themselves. When a child develops a high fever, the mother cannot always rush to the hospital. She looks at the nearly empty bag of rice, then at her child shaking from fever. Taking the child for treatment may leave the entire family without food the next day. So she buys the cheapest fever medicine, wipes the child's body with a small amount of water that the family had to purchase, and prays that the fever will fall. That is not neglect. It is desperation. Even after surviving illness, many children are still left behind by the future. In some coastal slums, as many as 64% of children cannot read. Schools are overcrowded, often far from home, and transportation is another burden. Many children leave school to collect waste or care for younger siblings. A 10-year-old girl may quickly count plastic bottles and know which type of can be sold for more money, yet still be unable to read a paragraph fluently. Poverty teaches children how to survive, but takes away the skills that could help them escape. Even deeper beneath this hardship is their invisibility in official records. Many children are born at home without a doctor and without a birth certificate. Without documents, they almost do not exist within the system. They struggle to attend school, receive public health care, or qualify for assistance programs. The cycle begins there. No documents, no school, only collecting waste to survive. Then, the next generation is born into the same darkness. Number 4. Happyland, when education becomes the final way out. You may think the future of Happyland's children has already been sealed, but even in the darkest alleys, some people are still trying to light a few small lamps. The Philippines is one of the largest Catholic countries in the world, and that influence reaches deep into the slums. Among rusted roofs and black canals, small churches and chapels still remain. Outside worship hours, many of them become places where children receive free meals, donated clothing, and practical skills lessons. For many families, these are among the few places where their children can sit in a clean room and hear their names spoken with respect. Alongside the churches are informal community networks. Women create rotating savings groups, with each member contributing a small amount of money every week. When their turn comes, they may open a breakfast stall or a cart selling fried snacks near a school. A steady fishbowl cart is still better than waiting without knowing whether anyone will offer them work. Young people provide free tutoring, teach English, explain how to use computers, and help others prepare job applications. Some neighborhoods do not wait for the city to rescue them. Residents sweep the alleys themselves, build wooden bridges across canals, and repaint walls to make narrow paths feel less oppressive. In these conditions, education becomes the final ticket of hope, on which the entire community places its trust. Many families eat less or delay necessary purchases to save money for tuition, uniforms, and notebooks. Children in Tondo or Happyland complete their homework on the floor, use an upside-down plastic chair as a desk, and study beneath a weak light because the house is too hot. Their dreams are very specific. A job in the business process outsourcing industry, a position as a nurse, technician, or office worker inside the glass towers of Makati and Bonifacio Global City. Non-profit groups are also active in Tondo, Baseco, and Happyland. They provide extra lessons in reading, writing, and basic mathematics, operate mobile health clinics, distribute medicine, and organize vaccinations. Some microfinance programs offer women small loans to open food carts. No single project can save all of Happyland within a few years. But for one child or one family, the right help at the right moment can still send an entire life in a different direction. Number 3. When the living must find a home among the graves. These efforts may help a few families move one small step closer to escaping poverty. But in Manila, that step sometimes leads them to a place almost no one would imagine: a cemetery. It may sound unbelievable, yet compared with a burning metal shelter surrounded by waste in Happyland, the Manila North Cemetery can sometimes feel like an improvement. There are cool stone tombs, cleaner walkways, and most importantly, silence. The dead do not argue, fight, or demand rent. But to gain that peace, the living must accept a painful reality. They eat, sleep, and wash their clothes in spaces built for those who have died. At night, a sleeping mat is spread across the cold surface of a tomb. In the afternoon, a bowl of rice may be placed beside the spot where another family lights incense for a relative. For adults, this life is an act of endurance. For children, the cemetery becomes a playground, a football field, and the only neighborhood they know. They grow up with almost no fear of ghosts. If a tomb cracks open and reveals something while they are playing, they simply move it aside and continue their game. To them, the dead are only quiet neighbors. In Manila, many graves are rented for a limited period. When the family of the deceased can no longer afford to renew the lease, the remains may be removed. The empty burial spaces then become homes for the living. Some people place plastic sheets inside, arrange a few personal belongings, and call the space home. They do not only live beside the dead, they also depend on the cemetery to earn money. Some pull weeds, clean grave markers, or maintain burial sites for wealthier families from areas such as Makati. During religious holidays, the cemetery becomes as crowded as a market. Wealthy visitors arrive to light candles and remember their relatives, passing children who are bathing or washing clothes on top of tombs. At that moment, Manila delivers a cold lesson. When the world of the living no longer has room for the poor, the stones built for the dead can become the final roof that helps them survive one more day. Number 2. Manila. At night, neon lights hide exhausted lives. When night falls, darkness does not make Manila any calmer. It only hides part of the poverty, then reveals an even harsher reality. To tourists, Poblacion or Bonifacio Global City may look like nightlife paradises. Videos of Manila after dark are filled with neon lights, DJs, glasses of alcohol, and modern streets. But look carefully behind the bar or outside the parking area, and you will see people who come from Tondo, Happyland, and Baseco. When wealthier people begin their night of entertainment, residents of the slums begin their night shifts. They work as security guards, cleaners, dishwashers, and jeepney drivers, the invisible parts that keep the celebration running. They start working as customers become drunk, then return home at sunrise with only a few small tips. Maria is a 22-year-old woman from Tondo. At around 6 in the evening, she leaves her cramped metal-roofed home and squeezes into a crowded jeepney bound for Poblacion. In the damp staff room behind the bar, she removes her mud-covered sandals, puts on an old pair of high heels, applies heavy makeup, and smiles at customers from the United States, Japan, and South Korea. In a travel vlog, Maria may appear for only a few seconds as a friendly local woman. No one sees her swollen feet after standing for 10 hours. At 3 in the morning, when the music stops, Maria washes off her makeup with cold water and returns to Tondo. She enters a room measuring fewer than 10 square meters, where 5 family members sleep pressed together on a thin mattress. She sits in one corner, counts the crumpled pesos and a few small dollar bills, then gives part of the money to her mother for rice. The rest goes into a plastic box marked tuition. So the next time you watch a glamorous vlog about Manila at night, look closely at the people sweeping the floor, guarding the entrance, driving the vehicles, and standing behind every smile. Beneath the neon lights are lives being drained of energy in exchange for very little money. While Maria works inside the bar, another kind of night unfolds in the slum alleys. The heat becomes weaker, but the fear grows stronger. Children sleep through the sounds of drinking, debt collectors, and sometimes even gunfire. In Tondo, a knock on the door at midnight can make an entire family hold its breath. Number 1. Manila and why its slums never disappear. If you look only at Happyland or the Manila North Cemetery, you may think Manila's slums exist simply because the country is poor. But poverty here is not only a cause, it is also the result of a city that has grown too quickly. For many years, Manila has been seen as a land of opportunity by people from rural provinces and distant islands. When harvests fail, storms and floods destroy farmland, or families lose access to land, they travel to the capital in search of work, in factories, garment workshops, construction sites, and markets. The population has increased faster than the city can build schools, hospitals, roads, and affordable housing. Manila has continued to expand, while the systems supporting it have failed to keep pace. Housing reveals this gap more clearly than anything else. Social housing is severely limited, and many projects are delayed or far too small to meet the demand. At the same time, luxury apartment towers continue to rise for wealthier residents. People who cannot afford to buy or rent are left with only one option: building homes on whatever land remains, beside canals, along railway lines, beneath bridges, near the bay, and even inside cemeteries. Most have no ownership documents or legal rental agreements. Today, a structure may be their home. Tomorrow, it may become a pile of debris if an eviction order arrives. Weak transportation also makes moving poor families far from the city center almost useless. Traveling only a few kilometers can take nearly an hour during rush hour. Living far from work means spending more time and money, which people earning only $3 to $4 a day cannot afford. Relocation areas are far away, while jobs remain in the inner city. Transportation costs consume nearly all of their income, so many families return closer to the center and build new informal settlements. The same cycle continues: eviction, relocation, return, a new slum, and then another eviction. If you remember the warning from the beginning of this video, that within about 50 years, as many as 1 in every 3 people could live in enormous slums, Manila shows how that future is created. It is not a random disaster. It grows from repeated choices that place luxury apartments and polished districts ahead of basic housing. After everything we have seen, Manila is not only the story of a poor city or a few forgotten slums hidden at the edge of an urban area. It is a warning about a future that many places around the world may face. As housing becomes too expensive, jobs remain concentrated in polished city centers, and poor families are pushed into spaces that no one wants to see. From Happyland to tombs turned into shelters, from meals made with Pagpag to children growing up without official documents, Manila reveals a truth that is difficult to forget. Within the same city, Some people live among brightly lit glass towers, while others must fight every day simply to survive. If this video has changed the way you see Manila, like the video, subscribe to the channel, and leave a comment below. Which part of this story did you find the most heartbreaking?